All right. Hello, ESL 40, NC ESL 49. Today we are going to be talking about the past perfect and the past perfect progressive tenses. Okay, so I'm going to go through this video, explain this. I'm going to fill out one of the worksheets that we've been working on in class, and then I will also upload both of these on Canvas. Please fill out your own worksheet in your own time, and also I will assign some practice for you guys to do. Okay, so I'm still getting the hang of figuring out Zoom and being able to record myself. So sorry if it's a little bit choppy today. I'm going to try to share my screen, okay, of the desktop. Perfect. All right, so this is my family kayaking. So we're going to pull up the past perfect worksheet that's in from esllibrary.com. I'm also going to pull up our document that we've been working on in class, okay? So let's look at the past perfect. Now, just to be clear, the past perfect is really just used in formal situations. So oftentimes we use the simple past instead of the past perfect. But there are some times that we should use this. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So it says the past perfect is used for two actions, okay, that occurred at different times in the past. In the past perfect sentence, the first past action, which is this one, she ate dinner, uses the past perfect, and the second one uses the simple past. So think of it this way. The action that occurred the furthest away from the present moment uses the past perfect, where the action that occurs closer to the present moment uses the simple past. So let's write that down. So past perfect is used for when two actions occur in the past at different times, let's say, at different times. Perfect. We got it. Let's check out the form. Had plus past participle. Okay, so we can say subject plus had plus PP, which stands for past participle, plus object. Okay, we got this. So had, because we are in the past tense, right? So when we are in the present, we say have or has. Okay. So we see our diagram right here. You guys can add that into your notes, or we can copy and paste it into your worksheet here. I'm not going to try to do that because I'm worried that I'm going to mess up and it'll take too much time. So let's just make sure that we get this diagram somehow into your notes or onto your online worksheet. Okay. So one action happened before another past action. We got it, right? That's what we said. So our time markers, we have by the time, when, and before. And then we have also all these adverbs of time as well. Yesterday, last, ago, already. So we can use those as well. So let's add some here. So by the time is a very common one. When, before, let's see, already, and let's say yesterday. Okay, so let's use some examples. So let's think about what I had done what I did yesterday. So I had finished my work before my husband and I played a game. Okay, so I had finished, that's our verb tense, and before is our time marker. And you can see that I have played here, which is not double had. Adson and Danya had, let's see, Adson and Danya had left for work by the time Sarah woke up. Okay, so had left is our verb tense. By the time is our time marker, and Sarah woke up. Okay, Adson and Danya had left for work by the time Sarah woke up. So remember, Adson and Danya would be the furthest away action, And Sarah woke up would be the closest past action. Let's check it out. So she had applied, no, let's see, she had sent her essay to her teacher before Lucy sent hers. So she had sent her essay to her teacher before Lucy sent hers. And that's an example sentence that it's just easier to use the simple past for both of those. She sent her essay to her teachers before Lucy sent hers. That's much more common to say. But this again is more formal, so we'd use this in academic writing and more professional speech. Had you already bought the tickets before we were told not to leave our houses? So had, again, you already bought. This is our verbs. Already is, an adverb of time, right? But our time marker here is before because it divides the two actions. Had you already bought the tickets before we were told not to leave our houses? Oof. So I'm thinking of that sentence because my best friend is having her bachelorette party next month, and all of us have bought our plane tickets for it. But now we're a little bit worried, unfortunately. We don't think we'll be able to go. Okay, let's look. We had applied for the loan yesterday when we had applied for the, no, let's do this. We had applied for the loan we've had before. We had applied for the loan by the time we were told we didn't need to, which means we did it before we were told we didn't need to. We had applied by the time. Good. We were told. We didn't. Beautiful. So you guys can see that this past perfect, let's keep going through this though, because this is so useful. So let's go through some of the grammar notes on this. Now, note 1 just talks about something that we already know as a class. When the dependent time clause begins a sentence, we use the comma. We got that, right? So by the time I graduated, I had made many new business contacts. So we could have looked back at our notes and changed this. I know that I had put our sentences with the independent clause first, but we could always switch any of this. Before my husband and I played a game, comma, I had finished my work. By the time Sarah woke up, comma, Adson and Danya had left for work. Before Lucy sent hers, comma, she had sent, we'd have to change the subject there. Before Lucy sent her essay, comma, Tanya had sent hers to the teacher. We wouldn't change the question, but we could change the last one. By the time we were told we didn't need to, we had already applied for the loan. Okay, so we can switch them because these are complex sentences. Now, if we look at note 2, this is important. It says, instead of a dependent clause, we can use an adverb phrase of time, okay? This means that these are simple sentences, and actually, we don't have two actions here. So although it says it's used for two actions, sometimes we don't need to. So we can say, by August 2017, comma, they had completed the additions to the building. So if you're talking about a specific time, you can just make this a simple sentence, still with two clauses, but this is an adverb phrase. So we just get rid of the dependent clause. So you can use this and that's fine too. A lot of times we use this when we talk about repeated actions. So I had texted my son 5 times before he got back to me. He had cleaned his room, made dinner, and done his homework by the time I got home. So we can use this with repeated actions. Let's see if we can change any of our examples for that. We could say we had applied for the loan 6 times by the time we were told we didn't need to. And then we can add this repeated action here 6 times. And that kind of goes with note 3. Perfect. And note 4 is kind of what I already talked about. The past perfect is not as common as the simple past. Instead, we use the simple past more often. So instead of saying, I had shut down my computer before I left the house, normally we just say, I shut down my computer before I left the house. So just a star there. In case this is difficult for you, just remember that most of the time we'll be using the simple past. And I like this. Let me know if you know the answer to this. Can you figure out the meaning of this sentence? Because it's grammatically correct. All the faith he had no effect on the outcome of his life. 4 hads in a row. Can you believe that? That's crazy, but it's grammatically correct. What does that mean? You can let me know. Okay, so this is the past perfect. Now let's go over to the past perfect progressive. So the past perfect progressive is very similar, just the main difference is that the first action continues up until the second one. Just like all of our progressive tenses, it shows duration. So let's see the difference and compare on our worksheet. So the past perfect progressive is used for discussing 2 past actions where the first action continues to the second one. So you can say past perfect progressive is used for 2 past actions when the first past action continues up to the second one. And let's make sure that we understand the form. So we have had, been, ing. So we do subject plus had plus been plus verb ing plus object. So we see that's very similar. Had, subject had, past participle, but instead of past participle, we're using been ing. Okay. Now again, please make sure that you put your diagram somewhere in your notes. Now what gets a little confusing here is that we have pretty much the same main time markers. By the time, when, and before. By the time, when, and before. We can also use for and since. They're a little bit trickier, okay? But let's practice some examples. So you could say, I had been studying for 2 hours by the time my husband got home. Yep. So had been studying is our verb tense. By the time is our time marker, and my husband got home. Okay. Tony and Solomon had been fighting when the teacher stopped them. Tony and Solomon had been fighting when is our time marker. The teacher stopped them. You hear my dog in the background, sorry. He had been trying to finish his essay. He'd been trying to finish his essay for 3 days before he turned it in. I don't know why I have essays on my mind, you guys. Had been trying is our verb tense for 3 days before he turned it in. And we have our had here. Had you been sleeping when I called you? Now, if you listen to this question, you might think, I've never heard anybody phrase a question like that. Had you been sleeping when I called you? Maybe you've heard this in some sort of Jane Austen book or Shakespearean book. So we don't ever ask questions like this in 2020 unless we are in an extremely formal and possibly British situation, okay? So we would just say, were you sleeping? So just to make that clear, this is how we form this grammatically, but this is not common, not common. It's still important that we learn this, but it's really just not common. They had been traveling for 3 years since he lost his job. So this is an example of using since. They had been traveling for 3 years since he lost his job. Okay. Okay. So these are my examples. Please feel free to practice yours. Something that I want to say before I get into a little bit more of the nitty-gritty of the past perfect is I want to introduce you guys to this website. I'm sure some of you guys already know this, but if you don't, this is an important website. So this is called Grammarly, and this is really, really, really useful. So I had to make an account. It's also an app. It's for free, okay? So if it tries to make you pay, don't. So we log into Grammarly, we press new, or we can upload a document, and we can write a sentence. So you could say, had you been sleeping when I called you? And it checks you. So on the right-hand side, it says correctness looks good, clarity very clear. So this looks perfect. But in case you had messed up the word order, you could say had been sleeping when I called you. It's going to say alert, right? Correct pronoun usage, which means I need to have a pronoun there. It says, it seems like there's a pronoun problem. So you would say, had you been sleeping when I called you? Okay, so double check your work on Grammarly, and because they're going to give you a lot of great examples and why you did something incorrect, and hopefully it can help you out. Okay, so use that to double check your own work because these are my examples, but write your own, okay? Practice your own. Okay, so let's finish up with the past perfect progressive. Now we have a few notes here. So let's go to note 1. Again, we're talking about using the simple past in our dependent clause. So she had been talking for 2 hours by the time he asked to use the phone. Asked, simple past. By the time he asked to use the phone, she had been talking for 2 hours. This is the same exact note from the past perfect. For number 2, exactly the same note from the past perfect as well. We can use adverb clause of time, and that can be in lieu of a dependent clause. Same over here, as we've talked about, we really use the past perfect progressive in formal situations. Most often, we just use the past progressive. And then we can see the difference here, right? Had past participle for past progressive, had been ing for past perfect progressive, or past perfect and past perfect progressive. I feel like I've been saying these words over and over. So what I would like you to do is look at the rest of this worksheet and answer these questions and use Grammarly to help you answer. So had you ever taken ESL classes before starting ESL 40? You could say, yes, I had been taking ESL classes for 4 years by the time I started ESL 40. And let's see, they said it looks correct. Awesome. Yay, it's very clear. Or you could, if you messed up, yes, I have been taking ESL classes for 4 years. Yeah, that's just a different verb tense. So it's not going to correct you there, but we definitely want to make sure that we're using the past perfect. Yes, I had been take ESL classes. I had been take ESL classes. Now let's refresh this because I think my internet's being a little slow. I had been taking ESL classes. Perfect. Okay, so use Grammarly to help you out, and please answer the rest of these questions. If you have any questions for me, please let me know via message. All right, you guys, thank you so much. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.